All right, what's going on?
I'm all right. And yourself, how you doing there, young man?
Good, man. I'm great.
Good, good. It's good to see you again. And again, I'm calling this in the room with Eli because guess what? I'm in my room,
Okay.
comfortable at home, and I feel like going forward, that's a great idea for anyone. I mean,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
let's do these things in a comfortable manner where we feel, very secure with our surroundings.
Sure. Sure
It was
thing.
an awesome morning, and for you all that don't know, I run with Anthony in the
Yeah.
mornings. Just recently, we've been running on Wednesdays. Okay, for those that are concerned, yeah, we practice our social distancing, but we're runners. And I wanted to bring that up because it leads into something that was being discussed with us earlier. And I would love for you to share your beautiful insight that you shared with us earlier about running outdoors, viruses, and especially this one, because there's a lot of fears out there with individuals, especially those that are already germophobic type of I'm sorry about that, but that's in their hearts, that's what they're dealing with. And so I would like for you, if you don't mind, sharing some insight because we were running and we were discussing outside and the probability of catching any type of virus while we were outside. So if you don't mind, give us a little insight from your thought process with that.
Well, when you're outside, there's so many elements that you have to consider around um, the effects that they have on virus particles. I mean, and I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a scientist that focuses on viral chemistry all the time, but I'm just using some level of understanding of that I have around biochemistry and biology, and that like molecules when they are expelled from something, like when we cough or sneeze, yes, the molecules do disseminate, they do disperse in a certain area. And when you talk about the mixing of molecules with air particles and dust and
Yes,
pollen and a lot of other things,
yes,
that's something to consider when you're talking about, like, if you're running outside and there's wind, the element of wind, and it's flowing in all different directions. It's not like if someone coughs, all of a sudden those virus particles are just gonna just be shifted over to you. I mean, when you're outside, it's not like, it's very different than being confined in a grocery store
correct.
or closed setting, like a home, or
Yes,
like I said, a grocery store, versus being out in nature, out in the atmosphere. It's totally different. It's like the likelihood that if someone coughs and you're running and you pass this person in half a second, it's like, you have to think about that logically. You have to think about it with some level of, okay, is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Yeah, not that much. Not that much. And also, you got to consider too, how much virus particle concentration do you actually inhale
yes,
when
yeah,
you're actually running? It's just not the same. The probability is not the same, as it is if you're somewhere close proximity, relatively speaking, someone coughs and you stay in that environment.
yeah. And
Then
see,
you're so
that was like huge in our discussion because we also were taking into consideration temperature. I mean, a lot of individuals don't understand that, when you're outside, temperature is going to play a role as well.
yeah,
It's not just wind or whether it's rain. Heck, the heat from the sun itself will
yeah,
cause the virus. When there's a lifespan to the virus, it's not like you cough and the germ is there for 24/7.
yeah,
That's
no,
just not the way that that's
no,
going to work.
no,
It only has a lifespan of seconds.
yeah,
And they'll say more time, but in a closed environment, I can see that because the moisture that may be emitted from someone coughing more likely to live a little bit longer on a harder surface than out in the air where it's easier to blow, dissipate. It has nowhere to go.
yeah. That's the difference. That's the thing. It's close. When you're in a closed setting, you have a different model from which the particles are actually continuing to harbor or just settle within an area. When you're outside, stuff is moving all the time. Air is constantly an efflux of movement.
Yeah.
So so I would not recommend, or I would not even think it's not necessary for you to be wearing a mask and running, or people who are, if you're walking and you run and a runner just so happens not to be 6 feet, it's not like it's the end of the world. Like, you don't need to cringe or hide behind a tree because this runner is running past you, 9 to 10 miles an hour or 8 miles an hour. It's you have to choose your battles. You got to choose your battles, and it's one of those things I think that we just,
I think we'll have to outgrow that as a society. I
for sure.
mean, the honest truth is we're wearing masks to keep from spreading what's inside of us to someone else. Most of us do not have an adequate mask. It's just that simple. But,
Yeah.
that was something we discussed, and we're outdoors and we're outdoorsy people. We run, we'll cycle, we'll go on a hike. We don't limit ourselves to confined areas. Pretty
Right.
much, most of my running friends are active, and
Sure.
being inside is driving them nuts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that one of the other things with you bringing up the things you're bringing up, that goes along with that is fear itself. I believe we discussed that just a tad bit. So with that being said, how does that work with you and, let's say, a few of your clients within the last month that you may have worked with? How is that working with them?
Yeah. Well, most of them actually are pretty. I mean, there's concern, there's awareness, there's a level of seriousness that they're taking, and they're also being very mindful about their level of fear with it. And my clients are actually pretty grounded. They're not panicking, they're not hysterical. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's
And
awesome.
it's also, I feel like it's the stance that I've chosen to make for myself. Like, if I chose to, no, I can't see you anymore, I can't, we have to take all these measures so that we don't spread stuff, this and that. And I have taken measures. I have taken more measures in my place to wipe stuff down, to
Right.
keep 6 feet. We're doing it, and we do that anyway. I've always wiped stuff down. I'm always just naturally 6 feet away, just because I'm not right on them all the time. The only thing that
Right.
would have been close from before was when we shook hands and hugged. So we're not doing that now. We're just doing like a little elbow thing.
Right.
And nobody's coughing and sneezing and no, it's not even happening. That's not even happening. So it's like, this has been over the last 2.5 months, or almost 2 months now. So, and I give them the choice. Like, if you want to do virtual, you can. If you want to still come in person, that's cool too. So they have a choice, just like I have a choice. So it's, nobody's forcing anybody. There's a love. I'm honoring my clients and their considerations by asking first and being very straightforward with them about where I stand. And if they,
That's awesome. I mean, that's an awesome relationship just to hear, because
yep.
again, with me doing this type of interview as they start going forward, I'm not looking to get some CEO of some company. I
Mm-hmm.
like speaking to those of us that are in the midst of the battle. We're here. We're on the
Sure.
ground level. You
Sure.
have your small business, so to speak, and it's going on. And so you have been able to find a way to see your way through this, and the people that you deal with are comfortable with how you are approaching this.
Yep.
So that's like hats off to you and your clients.
Yep. And they feel great. They feel great. A lot of, when they leave there, they feel great. None of them had any, one of my clients, she feels like she had it months ago, like back in December.
Right.
She's one of those many people, I'm sure, that have probably had some exposure to it and didn't even know what it was back then. And it said this had a very similar description that I hear from a few of my other friends, particularly in college, who have had some of those same symptoms. And she's fine, her husband's fine. And again, and that's not to take away people that have had it, experience from mild to severe, and even some people who have known people or know people who have passed away from it. And I'm just grateful that they're choosing to work on what they can control, which is their health, not neglecting it or negating it, and doing it in a socially responsible way. I mean, we can do we can still work within the within the restrictions of things, and not feel like we have to feel so panic in a panic state, or to the point where we have to, like, every single little thing we touch we have to wipe off, or every single place we have to go we have to wear a mask, this and that. It's like, for some
Yeah.
people, if that makes them feel more comfortable, then do it. That's the thing about autonomy and the power of choice. You can do what you want. So
And that's something I had discussed a little bit earlier, because I wear the mask that I am wearing out of respect to, especially establishments I may go in that are still allowing us to go in to get something to eat, or I'm in an environment. I still do a lot of service work with the Salvation Army, and part of their requirements, if I want to go in and still do service work, well, I have to wear the mask and I have to
yeah.
wear the gloves. So, I am honoring that. I
Hmm.
feel it's honorable, even after, let's say, they come with a cure and everything. There are some behaviors I feel that I personally will take with me
Hmm.
and carry on, because I've always been wash your hands and cover your mouth and things. But
Yeah.
there are more conscious things that I will do. And one of those things I'll bring up is about eating habits. And
Hmm.
one of the young men we ran with earlier today, Jason, my good friend,
Hmm.
uh, he and I got into a conversation about veganism and diet. And so, how do you feel about your diet and your immune system in connection with what's happening with this particular virus?
Oh, there are direct correlations with that. There are a lot of direct correlations. I mean, your health is your biggest investment. And there's a very clear silver lining as far as the profile of people health wise,
Yes,
that this has more of the severe effects upon.
yes,
So when we talk about that, so it's no coincidence that certain groups of people are becoming more impacted on a severe level, and those that have a weight challenge, or those that are overweight by certain standards, those
okay,
that are obese by certain standards, those that have respiratory challenges already,
yes,
those that are diabetic, those that have high blood pressure, those that have experienced other illnesses in the past that still keeps their body in a immunocompromised state.
yes.
So it's a number of things, and also too that I think about the mental and emotional health of people that affects them biochemically as well.
Yes, I
That stuff
haven't
is not
gotten to that yet, but yeah.
that is not to be overlooked or to be reduced or simplified, because that has a major impact on the state of your body on a day-to-day basis.
And
So
that's something I've noticed, like in the medias, they touch on it, but the realistic point of view is when you're walking on the street and you're just part of the foundational citizenship of this nation, the
mhm,
9 to 5 worker.
yeah,
I'm not the millionaire. I'm just, doing everything I can. I'm middle class, earning and less. For us, there's a huge mental stress, because even though some of the states have eased the shelter in place and stay at home, there's the anxiety with returning to a workplace.
for
It's
sure.
still out there. So I'm strongly feeling like the mental aspect of it is the most dangerous
Absolutely.
part of what's going on now, which is part of why I'm even doing this, is because we have to be able to face fear. And that was something else we talked about earlier today, is fear itself.
Yeah.
And a lot of the behaviors that we're doing now is fear based.
Yep.
And after we eat well, we still have to have a mental balance. So, in your own thought process, even after speaking with maybe some clients and dealing with different individuals, how do you feel a person can improve, as short as possible without being too lengthy? How can they improve the mental aspect of dealing with this going forward, because it's always going to be in the back of our minds. This is 2020 has affected the whole nation and everyone alive
Yeah.
going forward. So how do you feel a person can deal with, let's say, a coping mechanism of
Hmm.
not being so fearful?
Yeah. I definitely think doing things to help to ease your mind, like going outside, walking in the park, meditating, getting adequate sleep, minimizing minimizing or taking breaks from social media and the news exposure that's there, like really taking breaks away from that more consistently. Um, Actually exercising, that helps to minimize stress. It helps to increase dopamine to the body, which brings more feelings of excitement, inspiration. It also helps to give your body more energy and thus just improve the way you feel about yourself. So I think all those things can help. Also, and I would just be mindful about the people you hang around with, what you're listening to, the kind of music that you're ingesting every single day. So just being more mindful about the energy circles that you're around, your friendships, your family members, like the kind of the conversations that you're engaging with can either subconsciously reinforce some of those fears or they could lessen them. Just depends. So,
Yeah,
uh,
you brought up a major point with the individuals you interacting with. That was again something we had discussed earlier,
yep,
because that can either build you up or break you down.
yep,
It can bring more fear or it can ease the fear. So that is huge, because I'm still of a mindset that at some point we're going to have to all go back outside and work. We can't stay in the house forever,
no,
people. You
no,
know, and we can't walk on eggshells when it's time to go back to work.
no,
And that's why I brought that up just now. For those that are hear this, I'm pretty sure when this is actually put on the social medias, it'll be later in May, a little bit later in May. And that's, I feel like, is going to be very important, because we've discussed some of the restaurants that are starting to open, some of the small businesses, and
yep,
I feel that we have to comfort each other. We can't wait on the media
right,
or the
yeah,
government to say, "Oh, it's okay to go outside and be near your friend."
yeah,
And so I'm of a mindset that, hey, at some point we, the society,
hmm,
have to decide
what's
what
best for us.
we are going to do.
Yeah,
And what is your thoughts with that?
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we can take their advice, their counsel into consideration, and in combination with our own intuitive thoughts about things that we feel. So I think it's a combination of all that, and not and just deciding ultimately what do you feel is going to work for you, and just figure it out and just take the thing is, life is a risk anyway. Living every day, when we drive cars,
Aha.
as much as we drive, like driving is very risky when it in terms of like probability of death.
Especially in Georgia.
I mean, it's I mean, Georgia has a high level of car collisions and deaths every single year,
Yes,
thousands, several thousands of them.
yes.
So, and that's just in the state of Georgia. So, yeah, it's interesting.
And that's good that you bring that up, because by the time I get a chance to put this out there,
Hmm.
we all have to understand there are many different ways of people saying spirituality. I'm spiritual, I'm spiritual. And I challenge us all to ask ourselves, what is it that we're trusting in when it comes to situations like this? If you're truly into your spirituality, well, how connected are you to the point that when it's time to go back and the society starts picking up steam and they start having functions and stadiums and everything, I'm of a mindset that, hey, we can't trust in just ourselves or the governments or the owners of the facility to spread down and wipe
Hmm.
everything. At some point, we will have to develop a greater trust in something outside of ourselves.
For
So
sure.
what are your thoughts with that? Because I know when you deal with clients, you deal with many different aspects of life. So I feel comfortable in saying, well, asking, where are your thoughts with that?
It's,
And it's really about developing a spiritual trust in something outside of self.
yeah, again, it's you get to pick where you want to put a lot of energy and focus on. Like for me, like I I'm very confident in, and this is me because the
Yeah.
energy and time and endeavors I put into getting my who I am to the state I am, and continue to do that. So we have to find that position for ourselves within our own self. Like I can only tell you where I'm comfortable at and where, I feel would be a recommendation for you, but you still have to, make that decision for yourself. You have to find that line of comfort for yourself. So for me, like right now, like people are really concerned with wiping out every single surface. And some people are somewhere in between. Some people don't care. Like me, I'm like, I'm just gonna wash my hands. That's my in terms of service. I'm not gonna wipe down. I mean, I do clean certain things. I'm not gonna go above and beyond cleaning doorknobs. I'm not
Right.
gonna clean off like that stuff. That's too much, man. Like if I touch a doorknob, okay, cool. At some point, I wash my hands, and it's just like you have to figure out what battle you want to choose. What level of like how much how far do you want to go with that for yourself? What I mean, and then you have to ask yourself, am I doing this because this is what I really feel, or am I doing this because this is what they tell me? And even though I don't really feel it's really, like you have to discern for yourself. You have to discern for yourself. And that's something I do a lot. I discern and use my own intuitive understanding to figure out like, okay, I'll clean this or I won't clean this, or I
Right.
can wash this off or not. And it's like, and then I trust like, my body can handle whatever it needs to handle. So you have to make that call for yourself and tweak and adjust from there.
So I'm pretty much, even just sitting back listening to you speak, recognize that, oh, through time, you've developed a trust and confidence based off of what you've done.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean, you're not gonna, I often say, however a person chooses to worship or whatever, it's a choice. It's a human choice. But at some point, you have to be able to trust in something
Yep.
to get you through.
Yep.
I'm a big proponent of that.
Yep.
And so that being said, where do you see growth for even yourself or maybe your clients or someone out there just listening? How do you feel that they can grow in whatever area you choose to answer is fine? How can they grow from this?
Yeah, I definitely feel people can grow in their capacity to um their capacity to be resilient, their capacity to deal with stress, because in moments like this is where our bandwidth or our capacity gets challenged or it gets exposed. So we can build the mental and emotional stamina to take on things. And this is definitely this is like a long run for people. This is like someone who's never ran a marathon is now being dumped into a marathon and say, all right, figure out a pace for yourself and go.
That's a great analogy because
Yeah, life and
people that people that train for marathons are intimidated at the starting line, let
yeah,
alone someone who's never ran one. But there are those, and we know a few that have never ran one, went to the starting line and just, hey,
work.
I'm going to run it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
And I feel that a lot of us are going to need that type
for sure.
of, of mentality with this. Just have a utter confidence that, hey, I can persevere. I will with blessings. Now, before we leave, I
Mhm.
do want people to understand. As an individual, I feel very confident in saying that, oh, the virus is real.
Yeah.
It is a deadly virus that exists in this country, and it's affecting millions and many of people. Now, do I feel that we all have to panic and die? No, I feel like we all need to come and start coming with a solution. Because
Hmm.
as time is going forward, we're finding, okay, what we started, how we reacted in March is really not necessarily how we're doing it in May. We're
Yeah.
heading into May, they're easing up things, but now instead of don't touch nothing, wear gloves, it's more or less just put on a mask so you, if you're sick, you don't spread it to someone else. Because
Yeah.
most of us have inadequate masks, but the mask will serve a purpose. But along with you, like I started running this morning with the mask. It took 40 seconds and it was like, no, I'm not running with a mask. No, I'm inhaling because we ran by some cars and the carbon monoxide that's coming from that
Yeah.
is enough to kill me. You know, let alone they're doing construction in the areas where we live in Atlanta. There's all sorts of smells and chemicals that's
Yeah.
happening out there that right now, because of this virus, no one is paying attention to these gases that are out there that were already out there. They were already deadly.
Yep.
And so, I do feel like my awareness level as far as how I eat, how I exercise, becoming more committed, more diligent in those areas, even in my spirituality, where prayer and meditation has increased, and it should have been all along.
Yep.
However, encouraged with this situation, I'm like, well, you know what? Let me delve more into it. But the other thing I've done is service work. So I'll give you the last word on this. Like, how do you feel going forward that you can use this to strengthen you in a service work to the community?
Yeah. I definitely see that um, my my presence, my impact, my stance on things definitely helps to give people context on how to consider everything in its totality when it comes to your health, not just physical, because again,
Right.
you could be physically healthy on like a physical level, but if you're mentally, emotionally just not together, that could eventually affect your physical and make you more susceptible to getting sick. Because again, a lot of our health we don't, from one person looking at another person, you don't see a lot of the deeper levels of health that exist. You don't see the mental and emotional and social health for people. You don't see it a lot of times until something comes up, triggers, and then you see them, you hear
Yeah.
them talk, or you see their behavior, like, oh, okay, I never saw that, I didn't expect that. And so you're like, okay, there's some more to this than just their muscles, or the way they run, or the way they work out, how many salads they eat. All those do contribute to it, but they don't paint the full picture. And so I'm definitely great at communicating what the fullness can look like for one another, and how it's important to take everything, I'll say, with a grain of salt, but just take it in doses and see how it ultimately plays out in its fullness.
Awesome. So even though this is our second one, I'll do a couple more interviews for those that'll just be catching up. Can you leave our listener with a way to contact you, even if you put it in chat or whatnot, but a way just in case someone has heard something and feel like they may want to connect with you? Is
Sure.
there a way you can do that as we exit out?
Do you want me to put it in the chat, or?
You can put it in the chat and say it live, whichever way you feel comfortable.
Yeah, so people could find me on Facebook at StraightFit ATL. I'm gonna put this in the chat, and on Instagram at StraightFit ATL. I also have a website, which is AnthonyStrayhorn.com. All those three areas you can reach me. You can send me a message, and
Right. And I encourage people to reach out to Anthony. Again, our relationship started from running and just being in the community,
yep,
which has been taken away from us. But through it all, we found reasons to be the one with the other.
yes,
So, look, it is a disease out there, it is a deadly one. I do encourage all of us to take all precautionary measures but I believe we should do that daily anyway.
Hmm.
We should look at our lives as if at any given moment I can be sick if I don't provide myself with the adequate and proper maintenance.
Yeah.
Longevity is going to be all about how well I take care of my part of life. We
Yeah.
can't control all aspects of it. There are accidents that do happen. There are calamities, catastrophes, adversity happens.
Hmm.
But my role is the role I'm responsible for.
Yep.
And there's no need for me to neglect me.
Yeah.
So I want anyone that gets to hear this, reach back out to us. I'll respond in the chat. And I want you all to have an awesome day. And again, thank you, Anthony Strayhorn. I'll have you a couple more times so everyone get comfortable with meeting Anthony, and peace.